Affordability is the best it's been in over a decade.
Here, here.
Carney claims that affordability is the best it's been in a decade. But what do the numbers say? Tonight, we find out. My name is Nico Lagan, and I'm too conservative for the conservatives. My co-host, Rob Ambrose, not woke enough for the liberals. We are the political orphans. As you can see, not only are we late, but my co-host is late, 10 minutes late. He's a liberal. It's hard to get people to show up on time, it seems like, and I apologize for this because this is something that drives me absolutely ballistic. But hey, that being said, we're here. We're ready to go. So is Mark Carney right? Is it true that affordability is the best it's been in a decade? And before I ask your opinion, because we all know what the answer to this is, but what do the numbers say? Because it's all about the numbers. That's all that matters, is what the numbers say, not how we feel about it. So let's dig in. But before we do dig in, we need to watch what he had to say. Because it's hard for me to believe that he said it, but he did. And I'm going to show you the proof right now. Here is Mark Carney trying to convince us that Canada is more affordable now than it was 10 years ago. Listen to this.
Let's look at what's happened to the United States.
Hold on. Seems like my sound's not working. Let me do that again. Little rewind. Bang, bang.
Let's look at what's happened to the United States since the summer. They have lost 6,000 jobs. This country's created over 80,000 jobs since August. Let's look at
Already, we need to pause this because I just want to put it into perspective. He just said that the U.S. has lost 6,000 jobs since the summer and that we Canadians have created 80,000 jobs. Remember this. Remember what he just said.
what's happened to wages in this country. They are growing the highest in years, 4%. They're growing twice the rate of inflation. Canadians are getting ahead every single month.
He also claims that wages have grown 4%, the highest in years, twice the rate of inflation. Don't forget that.
Of this government, Canadian wages have grown faster than the rate of inflation. Rents are at a 33-month low. Affordability is the best it's been in over a decade.
Here, here.
The honorable leader of the opposition.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I guess for those people who stash their cash in tax havens, you've never had it so good and so affordable. Tell that to the single mother who's walking down the grocery aisle. Or let's talk about jobs. He compares it to the United States. When you do an apples-to-apples comparison of unemployment, it is 1.3% higher in Canada than it is in the U.S. In fact, Canada has the second highest unemployment in the G7, the worst grocery price inflation in the G7, the most unaffordable housing in the G7, the worst household debt in the G7. Mr. Speaker, he promised we'd be first, so why is he the worst?
Okay, enough. Now, he's basically, what did he say? He basically claimed, let me rephrase what he claimed. He claimed that Canada, since the summer, has created 80,000 jobs, that wages have gone up in the past years, twice the rate of inflation. So those are the two things that he said. And even Poliev can't even get good numbers to counter what Mark Carney said. But I spent the time to actually get those numbers. So let's dig into it, shall we? 80,000 jobs. That's what he claims that we've created since the summer.
Yep.
We won't even go back to the summer. Let's just go back the first 2 months of this year. January, we lost 52,000 full-time jobs in the private sector and small businesses, so self-employed. The government added 13,000 jobs, meaning that we lost about 25,000 jobs in January alone, as per Statistic Canada. Everything I'm telling you is Statistic Canada. In February, The private sector alone lost 108,000 jobs.
Yeah, that's bad.
108 full-time jobs were lost in February. The government added 24,000 part-time / public sector jobs. So in Canada, just in February, we lost 84,000 jobs. So just in the first 2 months of this year, 109,000 jobs were lost in Canada. And Carney says we gained 80 since last year, since the summer, which is lies, absolute lies. This is not real at all. The numbers say something completely different.
Wait a minute. Hold on. Just so I can wrap my mind around this. So what's the claim? Carney said that he created 80,000 jobs. Is that what he's saying?
He said that the U.S. has lost 6,000 jobs since last summer, and we
and that's dumb. Who cares?
80.
Who gives a shit? Like, who gives a shit? How many jobs America? Like, we're not American, right? So Carney, stick to the Canadian jobs.
But he's saying that he created 80,000. Yet we have lost over 109,000 jobs just this year alone. The first 2 months, we don't have the real numbers from March yet. So just from this month, just from February and January, we have lost 109,000 jobs, which basically all of them are private sector jobs.
Yeah. So Carney was talking about the summer. He's basically talking about 2025, and yeah, that's great and all. But when you look at 2026, which is more relevant because we're in 2026 now. Yeah, I'm Googling this myself here. Yeah, over 100,000 full-time jobs in the first 2 months of the year. Yeah, so it's funny. Like, yeah, who gives a shit what happened 6 months ago? The thing that happened last month and 2 months ago, that's a lot more relevant. I missed the first part of it. Did Poilievre not bring that up?
Well, Poilievre just talks the way he does. He talks like a politician. He doesn't really bring real numbers to the equation. It's, I'm going to play less and less of arguments between the two, because every time I listen to them, it is just more proof that they're controlled opposition, right? He doesn't attack the real numbers. How easy would it have been for him to just say, Carney, just in the past 2 months, just in the first 2 months of 2026, we've lost 109,000 jobs. How can you claim that we gained 80? That's it. Drop your mic, let it go. Stop listening. He just likes to hear himself talk, but that's it. All he had to do is hard numbers. 109,000 jobs were lost in January, February, yet you have a guy that's telling us that he's added 80,000 jobs. Here are the real numbers. If you really want to be pissed off, as per Fraser Institutes, between 2019 and 2024, the public sector grew by 19.6%. That means government jobs. And for the people out there that want to argue with me, crown corporations are a government jobs. They're owned by the government, meaning they work for the government. That's public sector. That's a government job. So the public sector grew by 19.6%. The private sector grew by 6.1%. 44.1% of the job creations between 2019 and 2024, almost half of the jobs that were created were government jobs. How is that sustainable? It's estimated that between 22 to 23%, so more than 1 out of 5 Canadians work for some level of government, municipal, provincial, federal, or a crown corporation. 1 out of 5, over 1 out of 5 Canadians work for the government, and 44.1% of the jobs between 2019 and 2024 were public sector jobs. How does that make sense? How is this sustainable when guess who pays the salary of government workers? People that work in the public sector, because governments don't generate money. All they can do is tax people like you and I in order to pay for their expenditure. It's insane. It blows my mind.
Yeah, did you see the latest
so easy to find.
Do you know what the Sunshine List is? It's this list. It's been out for a while, but it's basically every government employee that makes more than $100,000 goes on this list. And it's been in the news recently, and they release it every year. It's just it's meant to be an accountability thing, right? It's a good thing that we can see it. You can actually search by name. It's in the news recently because Ontario's list just came out 2 days ago, and there's more than 400,000 people on Ontario's Sunshine List. So that means that there's 400,000 people in Ontario that make more than $100,000. Of course, that's going to be at the top of the pyramid. That means there's probably 800,000 or 1 million that make less than 100,000. That's obviously still a lot of money, but yeah, it's wild. Just the increase in the public. When they come up with these jobs numbers, you can't really look at you almost have to ignore public sector jobs, right? Because
the Sunshine Lift is inaccurate. You know that, right?
It's
inaccurate. Because they don't calculate benefits, they don't calculate bonuses, they don't calculate.
Oh yeah, it's an underestimate.
I did the calculation. A federal government is costing at least on average, a federal government worker that is full-time is costing the taxpayers between $140,000 and $160,000 a year. If you count for their salary, if you count for their benefits like healthcare, if you count for their pension, if you count for everything that they cost us, at least $140,000, $145,000 to $160,000. So let's call it $140,000 a year. And they get their salary increased every year automatically, right? When you work for the government, you don't need to do shit except show up and you're going to get your salary increase. 140,000, that is the average.
Make a correction here. It says the annual list takes into account total compensation, including overtime and severance. Yeah, okay, but it's not benefits. It's just overtime and severance.
No.
Sorry, I got you.
But that's my point. They don't show you all the numbers because that would mean that every single government worker, at least federal, I never did the calculations for the Ontario, so I don't know. But for the federal government, you're looking at over $140,000 a year is what it costs. Yeah, it's insane. It's absolutely insane. When the average Canadian, $65,000 to $70,000 a year. They literally make more than twice the average Canadian salary, and we pay for them, right? It's taxes that pay for their salary. They don't generate money. It's absolutely insane. But listen to this. It gets worse because he had the audacity to say that Canadian wages have gone up 4%, twice the rate of inflation, which technically it's true. Technically, if you just look at that line,
so many well-paid government jobs, right?
No. If you just look, yes, of course, yes, 100 million, 1,000%, yes. No, but that's a fact. Him saying that the wages have gone up 4%, which is twice what the inflation has been, yes. But as per estimates, Canadians right now, dollar for dollar, is 2.5% less than it was in 2021. That's just a number. But here is where it gets a lot worse, and that's where he's so manipulative, how politicians are so good at using the numbers that make them look good, but they don't want you to dig. Because here's the truth. So house pricing and food costs have exploded since 2019. We're looking, the average house pricing has gone up between 30 to 50% depending on the market. The average house price in Canada in 2019 was $490,000. Today, that same house is worth $663,000. The average Canadian spent 39% of his income on housing costs in 2019. Today, he spends 54%. 15% in the span of less than 6 years. Renting, just here in Montreal, renting a 2-bedroom apartment has gone up 70.8%. 70.8% since 2019. That means a 2-bedroom apartment used to cost $1,130 a month. Now it's $19.30 a month. Food prices have gone up between 27 to 30% since 2019. In February alone, year over year, so from 2025 to 2026, in February, food has gone up 5.4%. 1 year, 5.4%. That's just food. And if you really want to get pissed off, did you know that the new carbon tax increase is going to be put in place on April 1st? So in a few days from now, we're going to pay even more for shit because there's going to be more carbon put on the cost of everything. I use that statistic all the time, but according to Fraser Institute, the average Canadian worker pays 42.3% of his salary to taxes. The average working Canadian spends 35.5% of his income on necessities, meaning housing, food, clothing. So after tax, after food, housing, and clothing, the average Canadian has spent 77.8% of his income. That's already gone. But if you talk necessities, you need transportation. People need to go to work. Insurance. I would argue that the internet, cell phone is also necessities in today's world. And utilities. If you add transportation, insurance, internet, cell phone, and utilities, you're adding another 20% on average. So the average Canadian spends 97% of his income on tax, housing, food, clothing, insurance, internet, cell phone, utilities, and transportation. 97%. If they have a kid in elementary or high school, you're looking at another 10 to 15 grand a month per kid. It's estimated that around 50% of Canadians are living paycheck to paycheck. 1 out of 3 Canadians cannot fully pay their credit card each month. And 41% of Canadians are $200 away from not being able to pay their bills at the end of the month.
Yeah,
that's the reality for you. That's the reality for you. 97% of the incomes are gone. And those are necessities. Like imagine if something bad happens, your car breaks down. Most people can't afford to fix it. They have to dump that on their credit card. How are you supposed to live like this? And Carney has the audacity to tell us that Canada is more affordable. Affordability is the best it's been in a decade.
Yeah, no, that's crazy. I mean, the fact of the matter is it doesn't really matter what happened last summer. Everybody, I don't think any economist thinks that we're not headed down. The economy is not looking good long-term, medium-term. Some of it's, you could make the argument if you want to try to be, what's the word? Play devil's advocate. You could say it's not all Carney's fault. Some of it's going to be tariffs, but the point is the reason why these tariffs are going to hurt so bad, and especially that wild card if Trump, signals he's going to leave the what's that called? I'm talking about the new NAFTA, the new trade agreement.
The
Kuzma, yeah. If he signals he's going to leave that, I mean, then we're really cooked. But the fact of the matter is we're only in such a weak position because of 10 years of liberal mismanagement of the economy. And it's been absolutely an own goal. There's no reason it had to be this way. We could be an energy and resource superpower, and we chose not to. They chose not to because it has become unofficial liberal policy that it is not just, a bad economic decision to take our resources out of the ground, but it's actually immoral. They have a religious belief against taking our resources out of the ground. And when you're a country whose only fucking strength is its resources, that's a death sentence. Well, the other strength is our relationship with the US. So both those things, they have absolutely just completely shit the bed on those. And I don't know what the fuck Trudeau was thinking, what he thought that you can talk fancy new words and post-national state and integrated global community, all that nonsense. The fact of the matter is economies still run on the same things they always did. What shit you make and what shit you dig out of the ground. And they seem to have forgotten that. Or they don't give a shit. Either way. They
haven't forgotten. That's the plan, bro.
Yeah.
This is where you and I, we don't see eye to eye. We see the problem. You believe it's incompetence. I believe it's planned. That is what it is to me. This is all planned.
And that's a fair disagreement, because we both agree on the solution.
Stupid.
Is get these fucking clowns out. That's the solution.
It wouldn't change anything, man, because I was just talking about this yesterday with nothing like having those conversations with people that don't necessarily want to have those conversations.
Yeah.
But the system, people say, oh, the system's corrupt. The system's not corrupt. The system was designed this way. It's not corrupted. The system was meant to be like this. This is how it was designed. The guys that are in power do not care about us. They have no reasons to care about us. Have you heard Poliev say he wouldn't take a pay? He would take a pay cut? Because I haven't heard it. If he said it, I didn't hear it.
No.
If he really cared, the dude makes over $300,000 a year to fake opposition. I didn't hear him say that he would take a cut. I didn't hear it. Did you?
No, that's not going to happen. No,
they're going to have an increase. I think it's on April 1st that they're getting a new increase again.
That's crazy. That's fucking crazy.
And no problem. There was one guy in the Conservative Party, I don't remember his name, that said, you know what? I don't want this. He's a blue collar. He's like, nope.
Yeah.
He's like, nope, I don't want it. I don't want the cut. And they kind of fluffed him off like, hey, shut the fuck up, man. We have to be taking our increase. So
yes.
And then you have guys like, look at what the Lost Art 420 is saying. I got paid Friday, and all that's left in my account is a little over $100, and a little bit of food takes most of it. Hope no emergency happens. And this is the whole point. 41% of Canadians are $200 of not being able to pay their bills at the end of the month. $200. It's absolutely insane. What did I say? The average working Canadian spends 97% of his salaries on taxes, housing, food, clothing, transportation, insurance, internet, cell phone, and utilities. 97% of their salaries. And we have and our government has the audacity to tell us that Canada is affordable. I do not, the part that bothers me the most is that they can lie like that with no consequences. This is what bothers me the most. That's why I say that the system was meant to be this way, because they can say whatever they want, with no consequences.
Politics. That's politics, right? Because the thing is, once you get into that, like, who decides what's the lies and what's the consequence? Because that's certainly going to be used against
numbers
you too, right? Like,
Numbers don't lie. I have the numbers.
Yeah, no, numbers lie. No. Numbers lie all the time. Statistics can be manipulated.
But those are not.
But
those are hard numbers.
I know what you're talking about.
Those are facts. But those are facts.
Yeah.
Those guys are lying to us, plainly lying. If I can figure this out in a few hours, I can find those numbers. They have massive teams paid hundreds of thousands of dollars, every single one of those people in their teams doing this work. They know the numbers. They're not stupid. We're fucking stupid. We allow them to lie to us, and we keep voting for those fucking idiots. Sorry, but this drives me absolutely nuts.
Just to give an example, like what Carney did there is a good example of lying with numbers, because he's technically correct. If you think about it, the exact words that he said, since August, we have added 80,000 jobs. And that's because it's not true. August.
But it's not true.
Because August and September and October were really strong months, right? So even the 80, they were like 140,000 each or something. So even the 80,000 that we lost in February still left it with a positive number. So it's true. It's just it's a lie with truth. It's a lie with numbers, because it doesn't matter what happened 6 months ago, because the thing that's affecting the economy right now is the thing we need to worry about. And that's the thing that's killing us by, causing us to lose 80,000 jobs a month or whatever, and that's going to pick up. He won't be able to even lie with numbers within a couple months, because that's going to be 100,000 next month, and then within a couple months, now it's whatever big gains they had in August, September, November are going to be more than wiped out by the losses we're about to have.
But even that is not accurate. Even what you said is not accurate, because they estimate that last year 180,000 jobs were added. That's what their estimation of, and I know that they're false. I went through the Statistic Canada numbers, and those numbers are not accurate.
How many did it say? How many jobs
altogether last year, late 2025? 181. So even let's say that number is true. I know it isn't. I can prove it, but let's say devil's advocate. We'll play devil's advocate. 181,000 jobs. We lost over 109 just in the past 2 months. That's less than 80,000. So
but also if you look month by month, I bet you last January, February, April, March, we're probably losers.
I went through all of them. I went through all of them. Where he's lying is that he doesn't split the full-time and part-time. So he's basically saying, over the first 2 months, February, the last month that this was calculated, we lost 108,000 full-time jobs. He added 24,000 part-time / government jobs. So that's what he does all the time. The numbers that they use, they will compare part-time to full-time. So you could lose 100,000 full-time jobs, but if you add 50,000 part-time jobs, you only lost 50,000. That's why the numbers are incorrect. They do not, and Statistic Canada is brutal for this. You can go to their website and look. They do not make the difference between full-time job, part-time job, government jobs. So they will say private sector compared to the public sector, but they will not say apples to apples. Because sorry, but you're not going to tell me that. But you're not going to tell me that you can lose 108,000 very high-paying job. Like you're talking, most of those jobs, I looked at them. Most of those jobs are skilled workers. So you're talking about guys that made over $100,000 a year and blue-collar jobs and mom and pop shops. That's the biggest portion of the $108,000 jobs. And they're like, oh yeah, but we created 24,000 part-time / government jobs. So technically, no, but they're not the same.
No,
you cannot compare one.
I know what you're saying, and you're right. But that's a good example of how you lie with numbers. Because if you say we created 200,000 jobs or whatever it is, yes, you're correct. But then when you dig into the numbers, you realize, oh, well, that doesn't actually matter because fucking 80% of them were government jobs or part-time jobs. So that's all I'm saying is you can lie with numbers and statistics. And if you can't be lied to with numbers, if you actually do your research, it's just that most people won't, right? Most people will just take that headline at face value, and they won't go into it.
But that's my whole point. This is what I've been saying. They lie. Those numbers are not correct. He can use those numbers all he wants. They're lies.
Just say you created this many jobs. Part-time jobs are jobs. Government jobs are jobs. They're not jobs in the way that he means them, which is why it's a lie. But he's accurate in the sense that those are jobs. That's my point.
But he's not. But I just showed you he wasn't accurate. 181,000 jobs minus 109 is not 80. Even if you agree to those numbers, let's say that full-time, part-time don't matter. 181,000 jobs minus 109 is not 80,000 jobs. So even the number that he uses is incorrect. Even if you say that, even if we agree that part-time jobs and full-time jobs are the same, even that, his numbers are incorrect. That's my point. Even the number that he used is a lie. That's what I'm saying. You don't even need to dig into the numbers. You literally look.
He said what? Since the summer, and like even the summer is a weird. Like, does he mean? I guess since fucking July, like the first day of summer. Does he mean August? Like this is. I'm explaining. This is how those people do this, right? Like,
no, but since the end of summer is September.
Yeah.
If you go by the real definition, those are late 2025, and since then. 180 jobs. That's what they say they added.
180,000 jobs since.
Yeah.
Yeah,
in the late
so
months.
obviously.
They call them in the late months. Those are normally the last 3 or 4 months of 2025. So the point I'm trying to make is even his numbers don't work. Either way, we can argue about that until we're blue in the face. We still have a guest, and I apologize to our guest. We get in. I don't know if I explained that to you, bro, but I'm a conservative. He's a liberal, so we do get in arguments all the time. So this is kind of what we do. Before we get to you, can you give me a thumbs up just to make sure you're ready to go? You can hear us. Awesome. So before we get to our guests, I need to speak about the sponsor of the show. So this episode is brought to you by Miss Cleo's Pet Treats. 100% natural, healthy dog treats, free from preservative, additive, and fillers, made by hand right here in Canada. Not only are they made by hand, but she sources all the meat from local farms in Manitoba. So none of that Chinese crap. So if you know that your dog deserves better, go to cleoscookiesandtreats.ca. Use the discount code Political Orphans and get 20% off your entire purchase. Just look in the description below. The link's there. The discount code is there. On that note, we are joined by Pastor Alin Armstrong to speak about the ticket that he received for preaching in the park. Alin, what's going on? Thank you for being here. Thanks for your patience. We were in an argument here, but thank you for being here.
Okay, I was just catching the end of the Habs game, so I was able to watch.
Nice.
So it's all good.
I appreciate you coming on. Appreciate your time.
But by the way, before we get into this, how did you manage to get a dog treat company to sponsor a political podcast? That's some good work.
The owner of the business, is a massive conservative. Like, she's a conservative like me, not a big C conservative, a small C conservative. Just the fact that she comes from Manitoba, that answers your question.
Well, this is usually with the political stuff. It's like a Bitcoin exchange or a gold exchange or something. You don't really hear about that. It's cool though. I like
some of that Bitcoin money.
Yeah.
Her food's amazing. Like her dog food. I got a big German Shepherd.
Sounds better than most human food.
Everything is you could eat it.
Oh yeah.
It's like beef jerky. She eats my dog eats bison. She eats venison. I think she eats better food than I do. Really.
Probably.
That being said, man, one of my buddies sent me a YouTube video of yours, and I've known this guy for 20 years. He's like, hey, bro, you need to have this guy on your show. So, okay. So I looked you up. I looked at the video. I'm like, yep, I can see that happening. That makes sense to me. Of course, it's happening to Christians, of course. So you want to explain to us what happened? Because, like I said, you were preaching in a park and you got ticketed for it. So please explain to us what happened.
Well, it's a bit of a long story. I'll try to keep it as succinct as I can. Essentially, the backstory is during COVID, my church was renting a space to meet, and we weren't enforcing masks and things like that. And then we got kicked out. We got evicted from the building. And so we had nowhere to go. And we thought, well, let's just meet in the park. And so that's what we did. We started meeting in the park. And ironically, we never got in trouble, even though we were above the limits and everything like that. We never ended up getting in trouble when COVID rules were on. But it wasn't until 2023. So the video you saw, that happened actually in 2023. And I reposted it now just because of the discussion around Bill C-9. And everybody's saying, oh, the Bible's not illegal, or they're not criminalizing the Bible. And I'm like, well, it kind of already is illegal. It just depends who you are and where you are, right? If you stay in your house or you have a nice church building and you read your Bible, they'll leave you alone. But if you go out in public and you read the Bible and you preach from the Bible, then all it takes is one person to not like it and to call the authorities for you to all of a sudden be in some hot water. And that's what happened to me. So in 2023, we went back out into the park because we thought we're going to do some public worship. It's nice out. And we're a small church, so, it is what it is. So we were meeting in the park for a couple weeks, actually for a couple months, and didn't have a problem. I used to bring my portable barbecue, and we'd have burgers and hot dogs, and the kids would come from the neighborhood, and we'd give them burgers, and we had like an axe throw, and it was like a fun time.
Nice.
And nobody complained. Everybody loved us. I mean, why wouldn't you? We're giving you free food, right? So one particular Sunday I was preaching, and well, before we set up for the service, and all we had was like a little speaker and a tent, like a little canopy for shade. And a Parks and Rec employee came out of the building and said I couldn't be there. And I said, well, I don't think you're right. I think I can. And she goes, no, you can't be here. You have to leave. And I literally told the Parks and Rec person, I said, just go call the police. I'll talk to them. And so she left. We had our service and nothing happened. So that week, and I actually waited for the police. I got there at 9 a.m. I stayed till 2. Nobody came. So that week, I actually called the police, the non-emergency line. And I think in my video, if it's the one that I think you saw, I put the recording of my conversation in that video with the officer, where I said, hey, here's what I didn't put the whole recording because it would have been too long. I just put what is relevant. But basically the conversation went, hey, I was at the park. I was meeting with some people for worship. And the Parks and Rec employees told me I needed a permit. Do I need a permit? And the officer said, well, how many do you have? I said, I don't know, 10, 15 or so, nothing crazy. And he said, well, the bylaw says you don't need a permit for anything under 25 people. So you're good. No problem. If they come back, or if they call us, just point them to the bylaw, you'll be okay. So I said, all right, no problem. And that Sunday came, and there was like a baseball tournament going on in that park. So there's people everywhere. It was packed. And we were just kind of a little gathering. If you just looked at the park, if you were walking by the park, you would have thought we were just another group with the baseball thing, because we just blended in. As I started preaching, it wasn't very long into my sermon that I saw 2 police cars. And the way that the park is set up is there's a big parking lot, and then there's like a concrete trail, and that brings you to all the different things. And the concrete trail is wide enough for a car to drive on. They pulled up on the trail, and I'm like, okay, they're here for me, right? I thought for sure they're here for me. Why else would they be here? And so 1 came, then 2, then 3, then we ended up with like 7 cop cars, 10 officers, 7 cars.
That's crazy, man. And you see that again and again when they do these nonsense overreactions.
It was overkill. I mean, it's Sunday
crazy.
morning, and maybe they didn't have anything better to do, but it was still overkill. And it was a woman officer. It's always a woman officer. Sorry.
Yeah.
It always is.
It's true. It's so true.
It just is. And she gets out and she's power tripping. You can't be here. You can't be here. I said, well, because I was genuinely confused. I'm like, I just called you guys, right? Like, I just talked to you guys about this exact thing I was going to do right now. And you can't be here. You can't be here. I said, why? She said, you have a microphone. I said, okay, I'll turn it off. I don't really need it. I'll turn it off. Then she went and she talked to the Parks and Rec employee, she was kind of hanging out. So she went and she had a chat.
Was it the ssame employie who had given you shit?
I think it
earlier?
was.
Okay.
Yeah, it was the same one from last week, the week prior. And after she came back, she said, okay, you got to leave now. And I said, why? I turned off my microphone. What's the problem? And she said, well, now you're trespassing. And I'm like,
what?
You can't just change the rules, right? You can't just like mid-game change the rules on me here. What are you doing, right? I said, what do you mean I'm trespassing? What am I doing that's unlawful? And she was really aggressive. You gotta leave. And I tried to reason with her and get an explanation. Like, what did I do that was unlawful? They wouldn't tell me. All they kept saying was, you're being trespassed. That is your infraction. Your infraction is trespassing. And I said, okay, I understand trespassing, but on public property, how is it possible to trespass in the public park unless I'm doing something unlawful in the public park? like threatening people, vandalizing, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I said, so I try to get them to tell me what is the unlawful thing. Like, okay, you can't just trespass someone in public. You can trespass somebody in private, right? Like if someone comes to your house, you could just say leave. You don't have to give them a reason.
It sounds like
property, you have to leave. But they,
Alan,
here, I have my ticket.
Sorry,
you
go
want
ahead.
to see
Go
my
ahead.
ticket?
Yes, please.
While you're you're grabbing this, it says that trespassing on public park, for example, it involves entering premises where entry is prohibited, engaging in prohibited activities, or refusing to leave when ordered by an authorized person.
But there should have to be a reason to
That's
order
so
them
vague,
to
bro.
leave, right? It sounds like they kind of did this trumped up charge on you with the microphone thing, and then once, even though you proved yourself like by just taking care, like, okay, I'm not going to use a microphone, they then use this trumped up charge to justify the trespass.
Yeah, they moved the goalposts in the middle of the game. Anyways, so my ticket says I committed the offense of engaging in prohibited activity. So I asked them what, because they gave me the ticket, and it was funny when I was talking to the officer,
which is interesting.
Yeah, he's writing the ticket, and he's like, "You're getting a ticket for," and he kind of mumbled. I said, "What?" And he said, "Prohibited activity." I'm like, "What is that? What's prohibited activity?" And he goes, "It's just prohibited activity." I'm like, can you name the activity I was doing that's prohibited? He wouldn't name it.
That's wild.
So like, I'm like, okay, you know what? I asked him. I said, "What's going to happen if I just don't leave?" They said, "We'll arrest you." And my kids were there, and they were like 3 years old at the time, and I didn't want to traumatize them even more than they already were. Yeah. So I said, okay, fine, I'll leave. I said, "Can I come back? When can I come back?" And the officer went and talked with their superiors and came back and said, "Never. You can never come back. You're banned for life." I'm like, you're treating me like a pedophile now. Like,
you're banned from the park.
I got banned from the park. I still go. I don't care.
They're not even banning pedophiles from parks.
Right. I know. You're treating me worse than a pedophile.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, anyways, yeah, so that those were the charges: engaging in prohibited activity. They wouldn't tell me the prohibited activity. They threatened me with arrest if I didn't leave. And so I ended up leaving. And you know what the funny thing about this whole situation was? I actually was breaking the law. I was illegally parked.
They miss it. They miss the low-hanging fruit.
This whole time I was illegally parked, and I knew I was illegally parked, and they decided to make this up. Now look, if you're gonna get called to a noise complaint, like if that was the issue, the microphone, I've never seen a police officer come to a noise complaint and say, "Hey, can you please turn it down? We got a noise complaint." And the person say, "No problem." And then them say, "You know what? We're gonna write you a ticket anyways."
Well, it's infuriating because how many times do we see the pro-Palestine crowd with fucking bullhorns?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they never get told to turn it down. It's just like, so, you know, I don't know how much Nico told you about the show, but he said at the beginning, you know, I'm a liberal. So I am non-religious. I don't have any particular religious beliefs, but you know, I have a strong belief in fairness under the law, and just this shit boils my blood because it offends my sense of justice. You can't have some rules that apply to some people but not to others. That is the number one way to fucking destroy your society from within.
Yeah. So anyways,
I was going to ask you, where are you from, by the way? Where was the park located?
Yeah, what province are we talking about?
I'm in Ontario. I don't want to name the city, but I'm in Ontario. Southern
so you're in Ontario, where we see pro-Palestine protests.
Where I live,
Palestine protests for 2-3 years, where Muslims are taking over parks. They block Bloor and Yonge,
blocking traffic,
the busiest intersection in Canada. No permit, no nothing. They're like 50 of them surrounded.
And they get police. They get police escort.
The police escort them.
Yeah, even here, I'm from Montreal, right? We have the Notre Dame Basilique, the Basilica of Notre Dame, which I would argue is the most beautiful church in Canada. They go outside. They go literally in the parking lot of the church to pray on Sundays, which has nothing to do with Islam. But they go there during service. Yet, acceptable, no problem. How do you feel about the fact that we're in Canada? Canada was built by Christians, and now we have this immigration, open border policies that we accept any behavior that makes no sense here, yet we accept it, and we treat people like you that did it properly. You called the police. They told you that you could do what you did. You actually informed them first. Then they show up 7 people. How much do you want to bet if you were brown? Let's be honest. If you were a Muslim, you would have never got that call.
No,
you would have never. They would have never showed up for
never.
it.
No.
And that's
How does that make
infuriating.
you feel? How does that make you feel as a pastor?
It would upset me if I didn't expect it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I could get upset about it, but I kind of expect it at this point. And so it's not really surprising. When it happened, I was upset when it happened, mainly because of my kids. They're still young, but they were young. They were like 3 years old or 4, or going on 4, 3 going on 4, whatever. Very young. And this is their first experience with the police. To this day, my kids are 8, 6 years old. To this day, they still think police are bad. Right?
Wow.
Because I mean,
so
think about it. You're a
crazy.
young kid, and all you're doing is you're with your dad. I have a picture of me with my 2 sons holding hands, and we're singing hymns in the park. What is more, what is more safe than that? Wholesome than that? And that's the day the cops came. And so they associate police with anti-Christian bias. And I didn't put this in their head. Right?
And I don't think they're wrong.
But
I don't
before
exactly.
this happened, yeah. Before this happened, I'll tell them, hey, the police are, they're neutral. They're, generally there to protect. And then this happened, and they're like, what? I remember the night of that day, putting our kids to bed. And we were just teaching them about, not in my sermon, but just in our daily Bible time with our kids, we were teaching them about the Exodus. And we were on the passage where the Israelites passed through the water, and then Pharaoh's army is drowned in the sea and all that. And my one son said, is God gonna kill the police? And I said, why do you say that? What makes you say that? And he said, well, because in the Bible, he killed the enemies of God, remember, in the sea. And they came against us, and we're the people of God, right? So is God going to kill them? And I was like, in my mind, I'm like,
It's logical.
The bro makes a good argument.
Well played, sir.
And I'm just like, well,
Probably not.
I don't think God's going to kill the police, but he's certainly going to judge them for what they did. And if they don't repent, then they will certainly face the consequences for what they did. Maybe not in this life, but certainly in the next. So anyways, to answer your question, how do I feel about it? I don't like it. However, it is what it is now, and I'm trying to do everything I can to reverse that by being bold and by being faithful and by realizing that really this country is not going to get saved without Christianity. You said Christianity, this country was built on Christianity.
Amen,
it was.
brother.
I mean, look at the charter. I have the charter on the Bill of Rights, not the bill. What do they call it again? The Charter of
Right?
No, the Bill of Rights.
Rights and freedoms.
Canadian Bill of Rights.
Yep.
And the charter both start with God. What God? It wasn't Allah. It wasn't Islam. Like, come on, you can't tell me that there were, So, anyways, yeah, we need to get back to that. It's the only way. If you don't have a Christian foundation, what do you have? You have this. You have this weird secular diversity cult, which is suicidal empathy, I call it, where you coddle your enemies to your own destruction.
And you attack yourself. You attack yourself and the people. I mean, I don't know if you can see my tag there, but I grew up. I've been a progressive my whole life. I'm a moderate one. Now I consider myself an anti-woke liberal. There are a few of us out there, but that is how that's the best way to perceive woke, is a self-hating ideology. It hates everything to do with the West, really. So that means white people, means Christianity. And we talk a lot about religion on the show. I'm not, I grew up very religious. I grew up Pentecostal, so I'm quite familiar with it. I for reasons far too much to go into right here, I am not religious. But there's one term that comes up. One of our guests had said, and he called I think he was himself not religious, but he said he considered himself a cultural Christian. And I think, I think that really resonated with me. And I think there's a lot of people out there who may not be practicing Christians, but they'll understand that term, and they would see themselves in it. Because, like you said, the West has been created on Christian, Judeo-Christian values. And there are, these things are worth protecting, and they're worth fighting for. And we don't need to be ashamed of them. We can be proud of them. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I'd rather live in a place that celebrates Christmas and honors the Christian days. Even Richard Dawkins came out recently and said, "Man, I think we need Christianity." And I'm like, "What?"
Well, I think Dawkins' arc mirrors mine a lot, I think.
But Rob, what he means by being a cultural Christian, is that as an atheist, you want to live in a Christian country because we will accept that, because it's us. It's okay.
It's the only place that you should want to live.
Yeah, but that's the point, right? And that's what Jeff Evely is, the guy that he's talking about that made that comment. And same thing, he's an atheist, but he wouldn't want to live in any other country than a country that is Christian. That's why he calls it, I want to be somewhere where culturally it's Christian, because his values are going to be respected. We might not agree with you, but we're not going to hang you or throw you over buildings because you're sinning. We don't do it because that's not what we're supposed to do. So there's no better place to live than in a Christian country. But I know we don't have a lot of time. But hold on, we don't have that much time. I just wanted to ask you, because you mentioned something that I wanted to touch on. I'm happy that you mentioned it, but as a Christian pastor that seems to have the courage to speak, are you worried about Bill C-9? Because you brought it up earlier. This is something I talk about literally. Free speech is my biggest thing. I speak about this every day. So what are you worried about Bill C-9?
How do I say this? I'm not worried about it because I've already been defying government rules for so long that it's just whatever. But I am concerned about it. Like, here I'll put it this way. I don't think it's a good idea. I think it's destructive. Mm-hmm. So I have no anxiety. I don't lay my head on my pillow and go, "Oh, I'm so anxious about what the government can do," because screw them. But I am concerned about it. And so in the sense of, like, are you concerned? Yeah, I'm concerned. But I don't have anxiety, because I lived it. I lived it before C-9. Like this trumped up bogus charge, which I fought and got thrown out. The judge probably saw this and was like, when I saw it says here $65. Like, am I a joke to you? $65? I called a lawyer and he said, "Yeah, that's the minimum. They just wanted you out. You did nothing wrong. They were just bullying you." So with C-9, this becomes hate speech and this becomes jail time.
Exactly. Yep. That's
the problem. Yeah, that's the problem I see. Is without C-9, they just bully you, you leave, you fight it, you move on. With C-9, now it's what did he say? Oh, what Bible verse did he read? Oh, okay, that's hate speech. Because what happened was there was a woman there, and my wife picked her out, who went to Parks and Rec, some liberal woman, and then they called the cops. And it was because that Sunday I was preaching in Revelation 13, the mark of the beast, of all Sundays.
Of course you
that. And look, I didn't go into the park saying, "Let's preach the mark of the beast." I was preaching through the whole book of Revelation, front to back, chapter 1 to chapter 22. That was just the verse I was on. Okay? So no one can accuse me of you were inflaming people's. No. Watch the whole series. I preached the entire book. That was just happened to be the Sunday that I was preaching that. And I was talking about the COVID vax and how they're trying to force people to get this thing to keep their money. And it's not the mark of the beast, but it's sort of like it, right? So there's some analogies here. She heard it, was offended, called the cops. Let me just say this, because this was the craziest thing, spiritually speaking, that happened during that time. in that passage, it talks about the beast who had, I think it's 10 or 7 heads and 10 crowns, something like that, 7 and 10, and there was 7 cop cars and 10 officers. And the Sunday before that happened, I remember telling our people, I said, I'm preaching on the mark of the beast. I'm exposing Satan's strategy. He attacks us through false religion. He attacks us through the state, and he attacks us through economic coercion. So I said, expect something to happen this week in your life, whether it'll be something from the state, money, false religion. I don't know, but the beast is going to attack us because I'm publicly exposing him. The next week that happened. The next week. And after it happened, I gathered everybody and I said, remember what I said last week? How the beast was going to come after us? So.
Wow, that's crazy.
Can't make it up. Like, we had 10 people, man. 10 people. And 10 officers, like 1 per person, including kids. Are you
so can you fight this? Is there a mechanism to fight it, or what's the plan?
I fought it. I challenged the ticket. I didn't even get a court date. They threw it out.
They just
It's probably
that's
for the
the
price.
shit that,
and they didn't even inform me they threw it out.
that shit
I had
just
to look
drives
at my
me
ticket
because
online to see.
Because something we say around here a lot is the process is the punishment. They know that they don't have a fucking leg to stand on with this shit, and they know most people won't fight it. Right? Most people are cowed by the when they come face to face with the with the power of the state or whatever, and they just crumble. And that shit drives me nuts because they know they're not, what they're doing is wrong, and they're doing it anyways.
Yeah, because they can. I talked to a lawyer. I spent $500 to talk to like a top-notch lawyer for like 30 minutes just to see what are my options here. Can I sue the city? Can I do something? I want to punish them. I want them to feel the pain. And he said, your case is a slam dunk. You'll win. But it's not going to be worth the cost.
Yeah.
Like they're going to bring you through the ringer. You're going to end up spending $250,000, $300,000 for what? To make them feel like, and what's the punishment going to be? Nothing. It's just going to be like, okay, we're sorry we did this to you. So do you want to spend the money for it? And I said, no, forget it.
But you could have went for emotional damage afterwards. That's what they normally do, right?
Yeah, but how much would I have got? Like I break even for what?
No, it makes sense.
And
that's why, again,
in my case, I would have challenged it because I know a lot of constitutional lawyers that do pro bono stuff, so I would have
been nice to know them then.
No, because this is the type of thing that you need to fight. You cannot allow people with power to abuse it just because they can, with no consequences. And that's what bothers me, because what happens next is exactly what you said. Bill C9 will take that from a $60 charge to have you thrown out to hate speech, which could face up to 10 years in prison. This is insane. 10 years in prison. Up to 10 years in prison.
Yeah, that's crazy.
The thing is, like, had I fought it, like, let's say I was just rich and I was like, yeah, I'll throw $250,000 just to give him a hard time. I don't care. Had I did that, sure, I probably would have won. But then Bill C9 just overturns everything, and I'm back to square one.
That's wild.
Because if Bill C9 gets passed, well, then it's like, okay, it's different now, and they can charge me with hate speech. What did you say? What were you? And they can interpret anything as hate speech. That's the thing. I can preach a sermon that's like neutral or just like soft, and you can come in there and you can misinterpret anything to say anything.
Well, anyone can be offended, right?
Well, that's the thing. And like, I've been posting on Twitter every day, Bible verses. I've been saying this Bible verse is illegal in Canada, and then I post it. And people are like, you're lying. It's not illegal, blah, blah, blah. Look, first of all, it's not the point that it's not illegal on paper. They're never going to put on paper the Bible is illegal. Mm-hmm. That's not how it works. The way it works is it's illegal for those they want it to be illegal for, right?
Yeah.
Yes, 100%.
And that's the nuance is what I did
The
was not
Quran will
illegal.
never be illegal. They'll never be. You know, the Quran will never be.
No. But they if they don't like you, if they want you out, they'll get you out, even if what you're doing is completely lawful. And that's what I learned. So for me, the Bible is functionally legal, because if there's any context in which I can't publicly proclaim the Bible, then it's illegal. Because free speech is either free or it's not.
Yep.
Yep.
There's no
And
gray zone in free speech. You either have it or you don't.
You either have it everywhere in public or you don't. Now, I'm not saying you go out in public with a bullhorn and you harass people.
No.
But if I'm in the park and I'm preaching the Bible to people, and you don't have to listen, you can leave. That should never be illegal. And yet they can just say, well, it's prohibited activity. And they'll never tell me. Here's the thing. All I did was preach the Bible. So the prohibited activity here there then must be interpreted as what? Preaching the Bible.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What other interpretation do I have? Because that's all I did.
Yeah, absolutely.
And people have said, no, it's because you had the microphone. So I turned it off.
Yeah, that's stupid.
If the infraction was an amplification, then why didn't they put that on the ticket?
Well, yeah. I mean, they kind of screwed themselves, right? Because by putting just they didn't give themselves a leg to stand on in court, which is obviously why they threw it out.
Yeah.
Well, Alan, I want to thank you for joining us. It
was a great chat.
It's just the beginning. I know a bunch of pastors that were arrested. Some went in jail. Like we had Derek Reimer on the show a few times. Mm-hmm. And this is just going to get worse. I'm fully aware. I'm a Christian too. And, I'm not going to hide. I'm not going to hide my speech. If my God and Savior got crucified for his words, that's a hard act to follow, but that's the act I need to follow. So it is what it is, but it is unfortunate that it is a reality. But at the same time, man, one thing I've been saying for a long time, and that's my biggest problem with Christianity, and it's not just Canadian. I've traveled through the US as well. We're too complacent. We're very lukewarm. Pastors don't have the balls to preach anymore. They don't have the balls to say the real truth. This is why I don't go to church on Sundays, because I'm not going to listen to a pussy talk about something that he doesn't have the balls to talk about the real stuff.
Yeah.
You're more concerned about having to be well seen by your congregation than being the man that's supposed to tell the truth. And there's only one truth. There's not many truth. There's only one of that. And the expectation of God is that we tell the truth, his truth. And as a pastor, you don't want to say it, you shouldn't be up there. So it's our fault. We are in the situation that we are in, and we are to blame for this. But at the same time, that also tells me that we are the solution. So
Yep. Just to piggyback on that is no pastor in my city backed me up here. Not one.
Really?
And I know a lot of them, and they all know what happened. Not one said, "We got your back."
they were afraid. Paint a target on their back.
They're afraid.
Yeah,
because the community was like, "Oh, this guy was doing this. This guy was doing that." In the community page on Facebook where I live, it was a big thread about it. Someone took a picture and they're like, "Why are the cops here?" So it was a big scandal for a while in the community, and nobody wanted to touch it. But I was encouraged in that most of the comments on that thread were like, "Wow, it's illegal to preach the Bible now. Like, what about the Muslims? What about this? What about that?" So more of the general community had my back than the church had my back, which is pathetic.
Yeah, that's crazy. Well, we're gonna, I think, put a pin in her there. I appreciate you taking the time, Alan. That was a great chat. Certainly keep us updated on that if anything more comes from that. But I think there's going to be a lot of these kind of stories over the next, 6 months, 12 months, unfortunately.
Yep.
100%. Yep. Thanks for your time, Alan. I will definitely keep in touch, but continue fighting.
Appreciate you.
Like you, they're ready to talk about it.
Yeah, I'm going to keep saying what I need to say, and You know, God is true. Let God be true and every man a liar. So we're not backing down. He's
Amen to
Right
that.
on. All
Have a
right,
good
take
day,
care,
sir.
man.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
There you
Yeah,
have it.
wild
It's
story.
only going to get worse, man. You're absolutely
Oh, yeah.
right. This is a type of story that's going to come out more and more.
Oh yeah, 100%. All right, guys. We are going to put a pin in there. We went a little bit over time, but I mean, you know, when you're having a great chat, then it is what it is. Guys, if you are just tuning in and you want to support the show, please consider becoming a member. You can do that through YouTube for the low price of $2.99 per month. You can also buy us a coffee, which you can see in the QR code in your upper left-hand corner of your screen. And of course, another way you can support the show is just keep coming back. Then you know, keep coming back, throw those comments out there. We'll get to them. Obviously, when we have a guest, we are not able to get to as many comments as we would like to, but normally when we don't have a guest, we generally the show is pretty heavily based on audience engagement participation. So other than that, folks, great start to the week. We will catch you tomorrow. Oh yes, you're definitely going to want to tune in for that, because we've got
We're joined.
you
We're
do that.
joined by Mocha Bezergin, independent journalist, and Chris Joseph, father of Jackson Joseph, that was killed in the Humboldt Bronco bus accident. I don't want to call it an accident, but he was killed in 2018. And we're going to be talking about a topic that's going to get us in trouble. I think that's going to be a problem, but that's going to be a great chat. We're going to be talking about the World Sikh organization and kind of the power that they have in Canada. So it's going to make for a very good chat. So we're going to go a full hour tomorrow. So 7 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow. Mocha Bezergin and Chris Joseph are joining us. So make sure to be there.
Yes, absolutely. It's going to be a great chat. And other than that, folks, we will catch you guys tomorrow. Enjoy the rest of your night. Peace.